strength of a nation's currency is based on the strength of that nation's economy. And the American economy is by far the strongest in the world. Accordingly, I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
This is ridiculous. Peace, blessings, and respect, family. This weekend I was going over some numbers, looking at historical cost of gold and silver in the past. And I decided to go back to like right before the start of the new millennium. In fact, I went back 2 years before the start of the millennium. Went back to 1998. So in 1998, the average cost of silver was $5.54. So if you purchased 1,000 ounces of silver back in 1998, it would have cost you $5,540. Today, that 1,000 ounces of silver will cost you about $22,000. Now keep in mind, the price of gold and silver has been suppressed majorly. And when I say majorly, I mean ever since the U.S. came off the gold and silver standard, those standards, ever since the U.S. dollar was cut loose from gold and silver, they've been suppressing the actual cost of gold and silver. And the reason being, of course, is, outside of greed, the main thing is silver is an industrial metal as well as a monetary metal. But when you think about the electronics, when you think about all the TVs and smartphones and microwaves, everything that takes electricity, they're either using, a lot of times they're using both silver and copper. They're essential. And basically where we're going, it's going to require a lot of gold and a lot of copper and a lot of silver. You know, the electric vehicles, the solar panels, your Apple iPhones, your tablets, your TVs, all of these things take silver and copper. So that's the major reason why they had been suppressing it. Not only that, they were suppressing it so they could stockpile it, so they can get it for cheap. And, when the economy bottoms out and they have to restructure, when they have to rebuild, they'll actually have some gold and some silver to back their currency. If you know the history of money, then you know that when America was backing its currency with gold and silver, it was the top dog of the world. And that's what made everybody else, they would get their money, and their money could be traded for American money, and then they would take the American money and then turn that in so they could get the gold and get the silver. Well, they stopped that because they realized, they're going to bleed us dry. But here we are today, 1,000 ounces of silver. Back in 1998, $5,540 would have been the cost. Today, it'll cost you about $22,225, something like that. But if you look at the unsuppressed cost, that 1,000 ounces of silver today, if they would stop messing with the actual cost of gold and silver, that 1,000 ounces of silver that was purchased back in 1998 would be worth $2 million, about $2 million, almost $3 million. Where I get this information from, how do I figure out my calculations? I go to the usdebtclock.org. On the US Debt Clock, it shows you the paper to silver ratio, and the paper to silver ratio is actually talking about the contracts that are claiming the same 1 ounce of silver. So back in 2021, there was 187 contracts for 1 ounce of silver. Today, there's 297 contracts claiming 1 ounce of silver, the same 1 ounce of silver. Will those people ever get that 1 ounce of silver? I doubt it, very seriously. And when they go to claim it, oh boy, it's going to be a problem. They do the same thing with gold. Gold is not as bad. Gold it's bad, but it's not as bad. So there's like 107, between 107 and 110 contracts right now for the same 1 ounce of gold. Then on there also, they tell you about the dollar to silver ratio and the dollar to gold ratio. So right now, an ounce of silver, if the silver and the dollar were still tied together, 1 ounce of silver would be about $2,800, $2,900 for 1 ounce. Gold, for 1 ounce of gold, instead of it being $1,700, $1,800 right now, it'd be about $21,000. And those numbers, like I said, those are the suppressed numbers. Those are the numbers that are on the debt clock, and those are the numbers that show you what it would be if the two were still tied together. If gold was tied to the dollar, for 1 ounce of gold, there's $21,000 in circulation. For every ounce of silver, there's $2,800 in circulation. And this is just one way of keeping track of it. We know the spot price. We know that they call it tampering down. Tampering down is price manipulation, And my advice to all my people is grab it. Get your hands on some physical while you can. The ETF and the paper contracts, those are paper contracts. You will not be receiving physical silver for those contracts. Read the small print. When you think you're going to cash out and actually get silver, they cash you out in Federal Reserve notes, in the fiat currency. So think about it. Think about it and ask yourself, what would you rather have? Would you rather have fiat currency, or would you rather actually have physical precious metals, gold and silver? Think about it. And don't fall for the price manipulation.